I'm Cher Edwards. I'm the Associate Dean of the School of Education, and I'm a professor of counselor education and doctoral programs here at Seattle Pacific University. I've been asked to talk a little bit about my research interests and my current role and what I'm working on. I am, right now, a couple things that I'm working on research-wise look at gender issues in higher education. I'm also looking at spirituality from a multicultural perspective. And I also have a piece that is under review looking at issues related to underrepresented groups in schools. My research passions are anything counselor education, social justice issues in education, multicultural competency or multicultural issues in education. I do work in supervision, clinical supervision of counseling students, and issues related to any underrepresented group or how we might best provide support for students who have been historically underserved. My dissertation topic is unique. I had a background in pre-med biology and computer science, and then a master's in education and a dual doctorate in education and experimental psychology. So my dissertation was on physiological reactivity as a measure of cultural bias amongst counselors in training. And so I was interested in something that was not self-report, that looked at how well prepared our future counselors are in terms of their ability to provide culturally relevant counseling services to clients. And so I measured their electrodermal activity and their electromyography, specifically their corrugator and zygomatic subdermal muscles, and I compared that to self-report data. Nothing like what I'm doing now, but that's just a perfect example of, try something during your dissertation and it may be what you pursue and it may not be. How was my dissertation experience? It was honestly a bit rough, but part of that I think I could have been a little bit more strategic about, but most people only write one dissertation, so it's not like you have a lot of experience and you'd say, if I did that again, I'd do it differently, because most of us have no desire to do more than one dissertation. However, I think some of my downfalls, since I was doing a dual doctoral degree, I had 3 members from the School of Psychology and 3 members from the School of Education, and having a large committee and having 2 different disciplines added to it became a little challenging at times in terms of the different philosophical stances, as well as just the sheer number. You are required to have 3 folks on your committee, and sometimes it's intriguing or attractive to expand that, to have different perspectives around the table, but just keep in mind that's one more person that you are trying to attend to their concerns and their constructive feedback, etc. So there is a saying about cooks in the kitchen. Another issue was my dissertation chair was amazing. However, it was her first appointment out of her doctoral program, so it was her 3rd year as a professor. She was an assistant, untenured professor, and had I known more about some of the power dynamics at that particular university, we probably would have had a different discussion about how comfortable she was really pushing back on more senior faculty members and knowing that these people would be voting on her tenure in the next year. So there sometimes are behind the scenes things that doctoral students aren't familiar with and don't know a lot about that I certainly didn't know going through the process, and I would have thought more about as I was, if I had to do it over again, which I'm not interested in doing for the record. What advice do I have for doctoral students working on their dissertation? Well, those of you that have had dissertation orientation with me know that the best dissertation is a finished dissertation, and that, just keeping in mind that this is not a place where you need to change the world. You have your whole life as a doctorate to do whatever exciting and innovative and life-changing research you want to. This is really an academic exercise to demonstrate to the faculty that you have the skills, the knowledge, the capacity, the ability to create a research design, to be a savvy critic of the literature and consumer of the literature, and be thoughtful of what you're reading and how it applies to your work, and to utilize data and analyze data in an effective way, um, and demonstrate your ability to write in a technical stance so that you can share this information with others. If it's helpful to think of it maybe in 5 smaller papers rather than a dissertation. Sometimes the word dissertation gets a little overwhelming, but if you think about it in terms of just writing a brief overview or introduction to what you're doing, and then a literature review, which you've done plenty of with your colloquium. A research design is just that is the chapter that just plans your study. The results are talking about what you found, and the discussion is kind of where do we go from here. So if you, my thought is encouragement to you is to break it down and not let it become so overwhelmingly huge in your life. Other advice I have regarding the dissertation process when you're thinking of committee members is not just who knows your topic or who is someone that is closely related in your field, but also who's going to work well with you and who's going to advocate for you, because those are important pieces of being on a dissertation committee too. So it may be that the person may seem unlikely in terms of a connection, but you really appreciate the way they give you feedback. You've taken courses from them, you like the way that they edit, you like the way they are able to give you some really good feedback related to your writing or your research design or any other piece. So be thoughtful about who you work well with. You're going to be working closely with this person for 6 to 12 months, in some cases a couple years for those of you that take your time a little bit. And so be thoughtful. Is this someone that typically I see as someone that will encourage me and support me and push me to get this done and to do it well? What topics or areas do you see yourself being able to support doctoral students as dissertation chair or committee member? I think any of my interest areas, also the fact that I teach at this point all of the qualitative research courses. If you have a qualitative, if it's mixed methods or qualitative in nature, I certainly could be of support as a methodologist or as your chair. I have a lot of experience in education at the different levels. Of course, if it has a social justice or multicultural perspective, that's something that excites me. Counselor education, so any of those topics. And also any way I can be of support informally, I'm glad to be of help as well. So even though I may not be a good fit or best position to be your chair or committee member, if you just want to sit down and talk about the process, or if I can be of support in any way, I welcome that. Best wishes.